Welcome to Deep Focus. I'm your host, Mitch Goldman. It's Monday, February 16th here in NYC. Steve Slagle, fantastic reed player, is my guest. And our topic is the glorious Charlie Haden. And here we have him playing so many great contexts to hear Charlie Haden. Whichever one you're listening to is probably the right one. But there's none better than hearing him play with Ornette Coleman and this great quartet. And this very tour, this European tour of the fall of 1971 reveals an aspect of Charlie Haden's life and music and sense of commitment that was never far from the surface with Charlie. And it's kind of a legendary story about him and about this music and how one chooses to live in the world. This group on this tour did a show in Portugal, which at the time had a very autocratic government. And Charlie played the song you're going to hear, Song for Che, which is Che Guevara, and he dedicated it to the anti-colonial revolutionaries fighting for independence. And at that time, Portugal had colonies in Angola, Mozambique, and Guinea-Bissau. And he made this public statement. This was in the town of Cascais, a lovely seaport town. And after the concert, the group was headed to the airport to fly out, and Charlie Haden got arrested. And he was interrogated. He was held in prison. I don't think it was more than a day before the American cultural attaché stepped in and arranged for his release. But it was a bold stroke from Charlie Haden. He put it all on the line. And he did that. That might be the most dramatic occasion, but it's certainly not the only occasion. He was a hero to many after that, and probably a villain to many others. I don't know. But so that's a little sidelight on this. And it adds, and maybe it adds to the music. It certainly doesn't take away from the music. And the music is just so beautiful. And Steve Slagle and I are having a great time listening. And you are too, I'm guessing, right? All right, please enjoy. This is part 2. There's 3 parts. If you didn't hear part 1, definitely check that out and enjoy this. I'll see you at the end. WKCR FM New York, WKCR-HD, 89.9 FM in New York City, WKCR.org. Live music. Ornette Coleman is part of a Deep Focus on Charlie Haden with our guest tonight, Steve Slagle. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. It's 1971, October of 1971. You're in Paris, this beautiful theater. And who's on stage? Ornette Coleman, this quartet, this fantastic quartet with Dewey Redman and Ed Blackwell on drums, and the subject of tonight's Deep Focus, Charlie Haden playing the bass. And we heard right there Song for Che and Ornette's Happy House, Song for Che, written by Charlie Haden. The show's called Deep Focus. I'm your host, Mitch Goldman. Each episode, I invite a guest. That guest chooses our topic. And tonight, I am pleased as punch having Steve Slagle in the studio, and he has selected Charlie Haden for our topic. And what do you think, Steve? Is this one magic night we've got here?
Yeah, it sure is a nice concert, man. They're just playing one after the other, man.
Yeah, how about that? What were you hearing in that set?
Just, the quartet is so, they know each other so well, and, for Ornette to play a song of Charlie Haden's is exceptional right off the bat, but, that song for Che is recorded a few years earlier with his Liberation, the first Liberation Music Orchestra record.
You were in a later iteration of that band in the 80s. Was that in the concerts every night? Or
No, we didn't play it, but because we had a whole book of new stuff that's on the record that's called Ballad of the Fallen.
Right. Yeah, beautiful album on ECM that encourage every listener to find that music for yourself. It's a beautiful recording, a fantastic group, and you guys toured on it. And
it was the product of like maybe 6 months of on and off working, in the United States and Europe, and then doing the record for ECM in Germany. I think 2 days of recording, I think. And so it was like while on tour and while playing the music. And yeah, so it was all new stuff, but that's great to hear Ornette playing.
Yeah,
Charlie Haden's song, and that's the thing. Charlie plays alone on that cut. It's 16 minutes almost. The bass plays completely alone for 4 minutes or so, and it's just great to hear. I hadn't heard it before tonight.
A lot of music and a lot of love, I dare say, between those guys, and because Ornette had plenty of music. He had a huge book.
He sure did.
So that was, and he doesn't do a lot of other people's compositions.
That's right.
And Dewey was sparkling in there.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, he just plays with endless ideas and going in and out of keys and everything, and Charlie is right with him, because it's a trio, and I think at one time duo, because the drums drop out and it's just Charlie and Dewey, and it's just great to hear that again, because they did that for many years, but it's not on a lot of recordings. I mean, I'm sure people that have everything could tell me a few that I don't know of, but I don't think they did a whole lot of records that were really available, at that time. And so it's just great to hear it,
What, if you could talk a little bit about your experience and what that's like when it just feels like everything works. Anything they would do and inject into this would work. It just feels like they've built this machine that they're all contributing and pouring their attention and energy into. And I would just imagine, and we've all had the experience in the audience, there's times when it works, there's times when it's not working. And but when you have it all clicking like that.
Yeah. I mean, that became the way that Charlie in the Liberation Music Orchestra worked. That's the direction the music went, in the sense that we would play songs that were folk songs, or like when I played with him, he gathered a bunch of somewhat folk songs from South America, from different countries in South America. And Carla Bley arranged them for the Liberation Music Orchestra. And so the songs themselves, I saw the lead sheets of them when Charlie gave them to her, and so it'd be like a lead sheet of a song with changes in a form. But when we would finish playing the arrangement, the improvisation would always be free, would always be open. It would be on the feeling of the song. Let's say if the song was in a minor key, then the improvisations would start at least in the minor key, but they might not end up there. But the point being that no matter whether the song had a definite form or not, the direction of playing on the music, improvising on the music, was freedom, off of the feeling of the song. So it's not like everyone was the same, because the song sets a definite feeling that you're playing off of. And so Charlie was a master of that, and the people the rhythm sections that he worked with, in this case it's Paul Motion. Him and Paul were as close as drums and bass as him and Eddie Blackwell were, and him and Billy Higgins. They were real close, because as we discussed, also one of the forgotten quartets of the early 70s is also the one Keith Jarrett's quartet.
Yep.
Which sometimes was a quintet, because they often had a percussion player to make 5 people. But that was a great group too, and that was Paul Motion and Charlie also.
Yeah, right. And something you were saying off mic about Charlie's sense of pitch and the way that he would fit in harmonically.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he had perfect pitch in the sense of you're born with that. Carla Bley also was born with it, and so I knew that intimately in the sense that, you'd be sitting listening to music with Carla at a club or something, and she would know exactly what key everybody was in, and every musician, I think I have a pretty good relative ear, but I wasn't born with perfect pitch. So the point is, Charlie did have that as Carla did, and interestingly, they were very close friends for along their entire lives, pretty much. As a bass player, though, I can speak that Charlie, when you're playing, improvising, and you're playing with him, he could hear if you were going into a certain key or a certain tonic or a certain minor or a certain texture of harmony. He could hear it and put the bass note behind it in the perfect kind of way that any good bass player can, but it doesn't hurt to have perfect pitch.
Yeah, he's hearing things that mere mortals aren't necessarily picking up on.
I guess you could say that, yeah, on a good night, for sure, man.
He also, I think of Charlie Haden as an extremely empathic musician also. Just in general. And I'm not a musician, so you're dealing with the mechanics of how songs are put together. I'm responding to something that you're also responding to, but I don't have that other part of it. But I just feel like there's moments when he's just receiving the feeling of the soloist or of whatever, and responding in kind to that. Do you think do you feel that's more true of him than of a lot of people?
Well, for sure. In the world of freedom of harmony, I would say he was at the vanguard of that as a bass player, and so for sure you could feel that, and that was really a great experience over a period of about a year to be involved with that head where you see they're into it at this time with Ornette, at other times and places when it wasn't a band that he's leading, it still would be like that. But with the Liberation Music Orchestra, that was, in fact, its name,
Yeah, very true. Very, very true. It's, you're not hiding behind that one.
Yeah.
You are listening to a program called Deep Focus. I'm your host, Mitch Goldman, here on WKCR. And we invite a guest. The guest chooses our topic. Tonight, we have Steve Slagle. So glad you are here with me tonight.
It's a pleasure, Mitch.
And you've chosen Charlie Haden as our topic, and we've been deep in this recording from Ornette Coleman Quartet from Paris, 1971. And I just want to take this moment to say that if you missed any of the show, well, in the next couple of weeks, it's going to go up on the Deep Focus podcast. Every episode does. We have over 400 one-hour segments up there for you to check out. It's all free, ad-free, sponsor-free, giving it away. If you subscribe, we don't take your email address or anything. It's all just a gift to the world. It's considered an educational program with all the same recordings that you hear here. And by all means, go take a look, and you can get it on the podcasting app on your phone, or you can also go to the hosting site, which is mitchgoldman.podbean.com, mitchgoldman.podbean.com. And you can share episodes with other folks. It's all there to enjoy. And so we've got more. Should we keep going with Ornette? Right?
Why not?
Why not, man? How often do you get to do this? Mm-hmm. All right. So glad you're with us at home or wherever you are, in the car, wherever you may be. You are part of the show. And what is coming up? I don't know this one. Airborne. Is that a familiar title for you? We've had a few new ones that we hadn't heard before.
I wonder if it's airborne.
It looks like it should be.
Because I recall that being a title of an Ornette song. So that might be a misprint, but who knows with Ornette?
Who knows, yeah. And then Broken Shadows and Rock the Clock, we know.
Yeah.
And all right, we're going to continue on right now. Ornette Coleman Quartet, once again. Dewey Redman, tenor sax, clarinet. We haven't heard the musette yet, so that might be coming our way. We've heard Ornette Coleman on alto saxophone and trumpet, but he's also got his violin at the ready. Charlie Haden on the bass is the subject of the Deep Focus. And special call out of Ed Blackwell. I think he always sounds great. He sounds especially great to me tonight.
Yeah.
Just the energy and the flow.
That's for sure.
I remember the first time that I saw him play, and I remember thinking, I was a fan of his playing, and I remember thinking, like, there was this, like, big attack, like Elvin Jones eating up the drums, and then I saw him, and was the most economical drummer I think I've ever seen to this date. There was, like, the motion of his body and even of his hands was the bare minimum of generating that sound.
Yeah, he had a special sound, the way he tuned the drums, too, and the way that he attacked them. Yeah, to see him live was great, and I was fortunate to do one recording with him, which maybe we'll talk about later, but and so to hang out with him a little bit, but it's a really unique sound.
And a sweet guy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. All right, so let's go back to Paris, 1971, October of that year. The same week that, for the big Ornette fans around, that Science Fiction was recorded, something Steve Slagle caught for us. And but yeah, we're going back to the bandstand. Here it is on WKCR.
Yeah.
Testing, 1, 2.
Doesn't that just make you want to cry when you hear Ornette Coleman calling to you like that? That is the end of part 2 of this program, recorded February 16th, 2026. Steve Slagle, my guest. I'm your host, Mitch Goldman. The show is Deep Focus. You know all this. You know this because you know that we've been trying a little fun, audience participation, we could call it, because really, you are, in so many ways, part of the show. You're part of the show in that this music doesn't really exist without an audience. It is such a critical part. It's the other half. It's the other half of the game of, they're making the music, we're listening to the music, we're responding and getting them going. But also, there's so many ways that you get to participate. You could just lay back and let the music wash over you. But if you are feeling this at a higher pitch, then come join us. And one of the ways you could do that is you can let some folks know that you're enjoying the show. And lately I've been focusing on one particular thing. There's any number of things you can do. And there's probably nothing better than just telling someone who loves music, hey, have you heard Deep Focus? And give them a chance to find out. But if you don't have anybody in your world for that, all you got to do is like the show or give it 5 stars or whatever. Most of our listeners come in through Apple Podcasts. So if you go in there, if you're to give us 5 stars and maybe write a review or whatever, this algorithm is going to reach new people. 55 of you have done that. I love that. I love that. If you're one of those people, thank you so much. If you haven't done it yet, I'm wondering, I'm going to see if maybe we can get up to 100. That seems like a proximate goal. Get 100 people. If we get 100 people to all say, hey, this thing is really happening, then new ears are going to hear this. People who maybe love this music and don't know about the show, or maybe they don't even know about the music yet, and we're going to turn them on in a whole new, huge way. So that's a chance for you to participate. It's very, very real. And you can also follow us on Instagram. If you're on Instagram, we are Deep Focus Podcast, deep_focus_podcast. And I always put up a little blurb about each episode of the show with some unusual photos maybe you haven't seen, and get a little discussion going and meet folks who love the music you love and build our community that way. And you can also find out more about the show at mitchgoldman.podbean.com. Now, that's the hosting site, mitchgoldman.podbean.com. I also have my personal website, mitchgoldman.com. And you could pull down the About Deep Focus tab. You could learn a little bit more about the origin of the show. And you can also look up any of the 400 plus episodes of Deep Focus that have been recorded and uploaded and see Steve Slagle. This is the first time he's on the show, which is really actually exciting for me. He's a fantastic player. I've heard him play many times. We had a great time together. Charlie Haden, though, has been the subject of a few different shows, different configurations with Keith Jarrett and with different bands that he's been part of. And Dewey Redman, Ross Moshe, for instance, did a fantastic Deep Focus on Dewey Redman. Don Cherry, we've done a number of shows about. He was a great friend of the show. And so you could put those names in and other episodes will come up. There are a small number of Deep Focus completists. Andy in Massachusetts, I'm looking at you, who claim to have listened to every episode. I don't even know if I've done that. Anyway, just trying to create a little space in the world for you and for this music to exist. And we're going to keep on doing it as long as you tell us one way or another that you are digging it. You can also email me. It's deepfocusnow@gmail.com. Deepfocusnow@gmail.com. And if you really want to earn a gold star, Deep Focus, that email address is all you need if you want to make a contribution to the financial aspect of keeping the show going, you could make a contribution at PayPal. Go to PayPal. They're going to ask you for the address. It's deepfocusnow@gmail.com. And anything that you want to put in the pot is going to make a big difference, a huge difference in a number of different ways. It's going to, first of all, tell us that you really are part of this in a meaningful way, and in a very, very clear way that will be much appreciated. But also, I mean, I don't know, what can I tell you? I'm shelling out some money every month to keep this on the air. I don't mind doing it, but as long as you guys tell me that it means something to you, I will keep doing it. So, and if you want to help carry the load, please do make a contribution. It really will be appreciated. All right, there we go. That was part 2, Steve Slagle and Charlie Haden, February 16th, 2026. I'll see you over at part 3.